Maxwell Jameson, a wealthy and influential man, finds himself drawn to someone who is completely different from the world he inhabits. At a charity gala, a simple yet life-altering proposal changes everything for both of them. What happens when love emerges in the most unexpected of places? Stay with us until the end and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories of connection and change. The city was alive beneath the glowing evening lights, exuding an air of sophistication. Maxwell Jameson, a billionaire investor in his early 40s, gazed out from his penthouse, surveying the glittering skyline. Knowing for his sharp business mind and flawless public persona, Max was the type of man who could revolutionize an industry with a single stroke of his pen. Not just any date, but someone who could add an element of unpredictability to the carefully orchestrated events he frequented. Max had recently gone through a very public breakup with a famous actress, and the media buzzed with speculation about who his next companion might be. The pressure to impress at the annual charity gala was immense, with his wealthy peers in the tabloids eager to dissect every detail. Stepping out of his office into the cold, bustling streets below, Max scanned the sea of faces. That's when he noticed her. She was tucked away in the shadows, a woman wrapped in a one coat, her face partially obscured by tangled hair. Passers-by ignored her, but Maxo saw something different. She held herself with a quiet dignity, her resilience that remained unbroken by her circumstances. Max's polished shoes clicked against the pavement as he approached her. She looked up, startled, her eyes wary and guarded. "Excuse me," Max began, his voice steady but sincere. "I have an unusual proposition for you." She studied him, suspicion flickering in her eyes. "What kind of proposition?" Max smiled, a hint of amusement in his expression. "I need a date for a formal event tonight. You'd be compensated, of course." She blinked, her gaze skeptical. "You want me, a stranger off the street, to be your date?" "Yes," Max replied, meeting her eyes. "You seem intriguing." For a long moment, she just stared at him, uncertainty clouding her features. She tightened her grip on her coat, then turned away, muttering, "I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested." "Wait," Max said softly, stepping closer. "I understand it sounds strange, but I assure you it's genuine. Just a few hours of your time, and I'll make it worth your while." She paused and glanced back over her shoulder, her eyes searching his face, trying to read his intentions. "How much?" she asked, her voice guarded. Max's lips curled into a small smile. $5,000. Tonight only. Her eyes widened. She took a shaky breath and looked down at her worn shoes. "All right," she murmured, almost in disbelief. "I'll do it." Then Max extended his hand. Maxwell Jameson, he introduced himself. She hesitated briefly, then reached out and shook his hand. Sophia, she said quietly. Soon enough, Max had Sophia in a sleek black car. The leather seats and polished chrome were unfamiliar to her, and she looked around, her eyes wide with apprehension and curiosity. The car whisked them through the city and stopped in front of an upscale boutique where a team of stylists was waiting. "Why are we here?" she asked, confusion evident. "You're going to be my date. You need to look the part," Max said with a gentle smile. "Let's get you ready." The stylist whisked Sophia away into a dressing room, working their magic to transform her. As she sat in front of the mirror, watching the years of hardship fade away, her natural beauty shone through. When she stepped out, Max was momentarily stunned. She looked breathtaking, poised, graceful, yet with a vulnerability that made her feel real. "Did you look amazing?" he said, his voice sincere. Sophia glanced at him, her cheeks tinged with pink. "Let's just get this over with," she replied, though her tone softened, a hint of trust beginning to emerge. They arrived at the gala, a grand affair with chandeliers sparkling overhead, casting their light on elegantly dressed guests below. Classical music floated through the air as the room buzzed with conversation. Max kept a steady hand on Sophia's back as they entered, feeling the weight of countless eyes on them. Whispers rippled through the crowd as people wondered about the mysterious woman on Maxwell Jameson's arm. Sophia clung to Max's arm, her anxiety evident. "Everyone's staring," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Let them stare," Max whispered back, giving her a comforting smile. "Just be yourself." As the evening unfolded, something incredible happened. Despite her initial discomfort, Sophia began to relax. She spoke with a refreshing honesty and candor that stood out in a room filled with superficial pleasantries. Quick-witted and sharp, her sincerity even surprised Max. She was unlike anyone he'd ever met, so real in a world where most people were playing roles. While conversing with a particularly hearty couple, Sophia's voice took on a tone of quiet conviction. The couple was taken aback, while Max found himself smiling, a deep admiration growing within him. He realized Sophia was more than just a curiosity. She was someone whose perspective was unclouded by wealth, someone who saw things for what they truly were. Throughout the night, Max found himself captivated by her, watching as she moved with an elegance that defied her circumstances. Her honesty lit up the conversations she had. "You are incredible," he whispered to her at one point. Sophia laughed softly. "I'm just trying not to embarrass you." "You could never embarrass me," Max replied sincerely. In that moment, he realized that his attraction to her went far beyond her looks. He admired her strength, resilience, and capacity for honesty. Later in the evening, An old college acquaintance of Max's approached them. "Maxwell," he said, his voice laced with intrigue. "I didn't know you had a new companion." Max could feel Sophia tense up, her gaze darting away. Something shifted within him. He felt an overwhelming urge to shield her from the judgment and scrutiny of his world. Without thinking, he took her hand. "Yes," he said firmly, "Sophia and I are very close." The man raised his eyebrows, but Max didn't wait for a response. He led Sophia away to a quieter corner of the ballroom. When they returned, Sophia shook off her pain and walked up to Max. "What was that about?" she asked, her voice shaky. Max turned to her, his expression softening. "Sometimes people need to be reminded that life is about more than appearances." He paused, his gaze searching hers. "Tonight, I realized I want more from my life, and I think I want you to be a part of it." Sophia's eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. "Max, I'm just a woman of the street. Why would you want me?" Max stepped closer, his voice softening. "Because no one has ever made me feel the way you do. You make me see things differently, and that's something I desperately need." He took a deep breath, his heart racing. Before Sophia could respond, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Dropping to one knee, he opened the box, revealing a beautiful diamond ring. "Sophia," he said, his voice steady, "I know this is sudden, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Will you marry me?" Sophia's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes brimming with tears. She looked at Max, her heart pounding. The sincerity in his eyes broke through every wall she had built around her heart, like the wire paper slipping away, rotting herself. She stepped away. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Say yes," Max urged gently, his eyes pleading. "Give me a chance to show you I can be the man you deserve." A tear slipped down Sophia's cheek. After a moment, she nodded, her voice barely audible. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll marry you." The room erupted in applause as Max stood, pulling Sophia into his arms. He held her tightly, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of security and belonging. Max looked down at her, his heart full. He knew he had found the missing piece of his life. Someone real. Someone who would stand by him and challenge him in all the best ways. As they looked into each other's eyes, they both knew this was only the beginning of their journey, a path neither of them had expected, but one they were eager to walk together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever the world had in store for them.